Welcome and good morning to you all. To those of you here in Plymouth, to those of you at home, and a special welcome to everyone joining us from Brighton, and to anyone here for the first time today. And I think this might be the last opportunity I have to say Happy New Year. We come here, as we do each Sunday, to create community, to reconnect with ourselves, with each other, and with the divine. That ultimate mystery of life, of love, of God. The theme of this service is finding our centre. As Joseph Campbell wrote in the context of following your bliss or following your star, he said, there's something inside you that knows when you're in the centre, that knows when you're on the beam or off the beam. So let us begin our service by lighting our own small beam, which is our chalice, as a symbol of our free religious faith. And if you're joining us online, then please do feel free to light your own chalice. First challenge. I think they're done. I share with you some words by Scott Taylor. May the light we now kindle and the time we now share anchor us to that inner flame, that sacred centre, which helps us remember who we were before the world told us who it wanted us to be. May our time together clear the way for those memories and voices and friends that lead us back home. And a prayer. Divine Spirit, knowing that we do not always live up to our best expectations of ourselves, let us, in quietness, seek the good that is already within us, that inner light, that spark of the divine. Knowing that we live in a society that falls far short of our ideals, let us in quietness consider one thing we could do from our hearts to aid someone suffering from want or injustice. Knowing that the earth is our home and that humankind is not caring for it as well as it might, let us, in quietness, consider how we might be part of making our planet a more healthful and happy place for all living beings. Knowing that each of us has some sorrow or worry hidden within, let us consider in quietness how we might reach out to one another with a smile, a kindness, an encouraging word. may we each be blessed. Our first hymn this morning is number 183 in the purple hymn books. It's called We Are Daughters of the Stars, We Are Sons of the Earth. And we will have a recording, but I'm afraid the recording only has a piano. It doesn't have any choir accompaniment. So I gather from last week that some of you here in Plymouth did very well singing with no music at all. So let's see how you do today. Singing We Are Daughters of the Stars, number 183. There will be an introduction on the piano. Thank you and well done. We now have a story. It's from the Jewish tradition, and it may be known to a number of you, but it feels very relevant to our theme today. And Nabs is very kindly going to read it for us.
Morning all. On his deathbed, Rabbi Zusya began to cry uncontrollably, and his students and disciples tried hard to comfort him. They asked him, "Rabbi, why do you weep? You are almost as wise as Moses, you are nearly as hospitable as Abraham, and surely heaven will judge you favorably." Zusya answered them, "It is true. When I get to heaven, I won't worry so much if God asks me, 'Zusya, why were you not more like Abraham?' Or 'Zusya, why were you not more like Moses?' I know I'll be able to answer these questions. After all, though I was not given the righteousness of Abraham nor the faith of Moses, I tried to both be hospitable and thoughtful. But what will I say when God asks me, 'Zusya, why were you not more like Zusya?'"
Thank you, Nabs. Zusya, why were you not more like Zusya? Indeed. I'm going to share a reading from Parker J. Palmer now, who was a Quaker, and he wrote a number of books, one of which is called Let Your Life Speak. And this reading certainly spoke to me. There are moments when it's clear, if I have the eyes to see, that the life I'm living is not the same as the life that wants to live in me. In those moments, I sometimes catch a glimpse of my true life. A life hidden like a river beneath the ice. And I wonder, what am I meant to do? Who am I meant to be? I was in my early 30s when I began literally to wake up to questions about my vocation. By all appearances, things were going well. But the soul does not put much stock in appearances. Seeking a path more purposeful than accumulating wealth, holding power, winning at competition, or securing a career, I had started to understand that it is indeed possible to live a life other than one's own. Then I ran across the old Quaker saying, "Let your life speak." Let your life speak. I found those words encouraging, and I thought I understood what they meant. Let the highest truths and values guide you. Live up to those demanding standards in everything you do. So I lined up the loftiest ideals I could find and set out to achieve them. The results were rarely admirable, often laughable, and sometimes grotesque. But always they were unreal, a distortion of my true self, as must be the case when one lives from the outside in and not the inside out. I had simply found a noble way to live a life that was not my own. A life spent imitating heroes instead of listening to my heart. Today, some 30 years later, let your life speak means something else to me. It means this: before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen to what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody, what values you represent. Words from Parker J. Palmer. Religions are good at setting us ideals to live up to, aren't they? And I thought it might be just worth reminding us all at the beginning of the year of the lofty values, some of them anyway, that we hold in Unitarianism. The Unitarian Universalists, our American cousins, have 7 principles which we have looked at before, and I think they're easy enough to agree with and to aspire to, but I wonder which of them, if any, resonate with our inner selves, with our hearts. So here they are, and as you hear them, just see how they sit with you. Are they something you aspire to? Are they something that is already what you are? Maybe they don't speak to you at all, but just take a little time to listen and think. The first one is the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The second, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. The third is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. The fourth, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Number 5 is the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And finally, number 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. 7 principles or values shared by many Unitarians. And as I say, I agree with them all. They're fine and noble. But I realized myself that only one of them feels intrinsically a part of who I already am rather than who I'm trying to be. And that one is number 4, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Because I can't not do that, because that is simply what I do all the time. It's always part of what makes me, me. So I wonder what leapt out for you. Was there a value there that really resonated in your soul, that spoke to you as something that would be a vision in your life, or not? And while you're pondering that, let's lead into a time of quiet reflection. First of all, by singing our next hymn, which is hymn number 22, Come and Find the Quiet Center. Sorry, hymn. Take some silence for our own prayers, reflections, meditations. So what do we mean by finding the centre of ourselves? To say we are centred often means something along the lines of feeling in harmony with ourselves, in balance, grounded, perhaps, in the moment, not about to fly off the handle or to nod off either. There's a strong sense of being fully present when we are centred, of being awake. But I'm also using the idea of our centre as being our essential nature, our authentic self, if you like. That place where we are truly ourselves, where we are who we really are, rather than merely a version that's expected of us, or we've got used to projecting. Perhaps you might think of this truthful centre as your soul. Souls never lie. We arrive on this earth with some kind of central essence within us, don't we? Those of you with children or grandchildren will know this better than I do, but as far as I can see, a new baby doesn't enter the world as a blank sheet. Each child arrives with its own God-given, unique nature, with its own gifts and its own limitations too. Not set in stone, flexible, developable, but nevertheless, we have a nature that we arrive with. You and me too, though it's maybe a long time ago, or back along, as we say here in Devon. But there was a day when we landed on this planet naked in every sense, without artifice of any kind, just as we were. But of course, from the moment we're born, we begin to be shaped by our experiences. And some of what we learn over the years through trial and error and sometimes hardships and falling over and getting up again enables us to develop and channel our gifts and manage our limitations in ways that help us flourish and thrive. But clearly, quite a bit of growing up has quite the opposite effect. Our lives quickly become focused on trying to meet other people's needs, society's expectations of us. And along the way, I think most of us learn to feel shame and guilt. We learn to compare ourselves with others and are left often with feelings of insecurity and inadequacy and self-doubt. Even if that sometimes masquerades as overconfidence, even if it leads to standing up in a pulpit, perhaps. It can soon become weirdly difficult to do what surely should be the easiest thing in the world, to be who we truly are. And do we even know, after a while, what that would look like? And since we're all going through this process and it's normal, it tends to go unnoticed. And if we're not careful, we simply forget how we started. There were a few things I noticed this week as I was thinking about this service. I'll just share them with you because they feel related to the theme. And one is that it was reported in the news that more people than ever before are identifying as not being heterosexual. That is to say, they may be lesbian or gay or queer or asexual, whatever it is. And that's unlikely to be because there are more people who identify as LGBTQ plus to themselves, but they've been able to feel able to identify more publicly. There is a greater social acceptance. There is less need to act on the outside in a way that contradicts the truth on the inside. And what a relief that must be. And isn't that what we all yearn for in our different ways too? For the outer to actually reflect what is the truth on the inside. But then I witnessed, sadly, 2 white council workers who were chatting in my local park, casually ordering their black colleague to move a wheelbarrow full of earth before continuing their conversation. And I could see that the man wasn't happy. And we spoke a bit, and he said to me, I thought slavery was over. It's always like that, he said. But he doesn't complain, he takes his wages and he gets on with it. But I've been thinking about him a lot and wondering how that feels to deny who you are, to subject yourself to other people's versions of who you are, and what that does to your soul over time. And what it does to any of us to feel undermined and demeaned in any way. And then, on a lighter note, the journalist Rory Cellan-Jones has been posting updates of his adopted rescue dog, Sophie from Romania, on Twitter. And I tell you this because it does link, honestly. Sophie, who's a 1-year-old, had been abandoned and fostered before being brought to the UK by a charity, but she's extremely nervous and timid and is currently spending her time hiding behind the family's red sofa most of the day and night, only coming out occasionally when tempted by snacks. And the family have been advised not to rush her, just to be patient, to wait, to give her time. And she'll come out when she's ready and feels safe enough to do so. And I found that moving, and it reminded me of a different quote by Parker J. Palmer, this time from a different book called A Hidden Wholeness, in which he writes, "If we want to support each other's inner lives, we must remember a simple truth. The human soul does not want to be fixed. It wants simply to be seen and heard. If we want to see and hear a person's soul, there is another truth we must remember. The soul is like a wild animal, tough, resilient, and yet shy. When we go crashing through the woods, shouting for it to come out so we can help it, the soul will stay in hiding. But if we're willing to sit quietly and wait for a while, the soul may show itself." As Valerie Kaur writes, "The loudest voices in the world right now are ones running on the energy of fear, and of criticism, and of cruelty. But I must not lose myself at the feet of others. My most vigilant spiritual practice is finding the seconds of solitude to get quiet enough to hear the wise woman in me." We all have a wise person inside of us. At the end of a life, as Rabbi Zusya found himself, it would be easy to have regrets. But like Rabbi Zusya, the one that concerns me most is not why was I not a better person, or why was I not more like the Buddha or more like Jesus. No, I was sent here to be Kate. So the question will be, why was I not more like Kate? What better to do in January then? In the rain and the dark? It is here anyway. I don't know how it is in Brighton at the moment. What better than to move our attention for a while from the chaos and the shoutiness of the outer world into the quiet, fertile ground of our inner world, where the shadows are, as well as the gifts. to where our real centre is. To listen, to be patient, to see whether our God-given souls, our true selves, might just venture forward from behind the sofa with something to say to us. Maybe to reveal the way forward, if they're given the time and the space to do so. For it is when we find our true centre and act from that place that whatever we do will flow from spirit and be touched by grace. Our last hymn, our third and last hymn, is hymn number 208. When our heart is in a holy place, number 208. So I'd like to offer my blessings to you all for the week ahead, that you are able to maybe find some time to sit quietly with yourselves and see if you can tempt your inner self out from its hiding place and just see what it has to say to you. Go well.